So after months and months of planning this,
Finally on the river.
finally here. So Dave is from Liquid Action Films, and Lawson from Tide Runners. And in this pool behind us here, we're hoping to be able to film some lungfish and some Mary River Cod and hopefully some other native fish and turtles.
Yeah.
First time scuba diving in a long time for me, so I'm absolutely pumped and excited for this. So stay tuned and see what filming we can get. See ya! Join us on this part 1 of a 3-part series that I plan on doing over the next 18 months on the mighty Mary River. Now, the Mary River has a long history tied to Gympie's development, initially serving as a transport route for timber before 1867 gold rush dramatically changed the area. Following the gold discovery, the river flats were used for crops and small-scale dairy farm and agricultural use, and the river itself became a critical transport artery for the new town. The river was officially renamed in 1847 from the Wide Bay River in honour of Governor Fitzroy's late wife, Lady Mary Fitzroy, thus becoming the Mary River. So come along and come underwater and let's explore what actually is going on in this beautiful river system. Now, some of the footage that I've compiled in this first part of the documentary, I actually filmed quite a few years ago, and it's mainly the lungfish footage that I filmed. As you'll notice, some of the lungfish footage, they're in amongst some beautiful aquatic vegetation. Their numbers were quite plentiful. The water was quite clean. However, as the trip progressed and we went to these exact same spots, there was no aquatic vegetation left. There was silt, sediment. The visibility was horrible, as you're going to see. Some parts of the river were still clean and clear to some degree, but unfortunately, a lot of the aquatic vegetation is now null and void. It's missing. And that's not good for our river system. It's not healthy for our river system. But more importantly, it's a critical component for many species of fish and turtle to be able to reproduce and survive long term in this river system. And unfortunately, we didn't find much of any of it. We didn't find any juvenile or hatchling turtles of any species. We found a couple of adult lungfish, but no subadult or juvenile lungfish. We did find a few Mary River Cod. Most of them were quite large and very, very secretive and wouldn't allow us to get too close. However, we did manage to get close to a couple. So all in all, the fish population in the river was quite substantial. Unfortunately, the main fish species that is prevalent in this Mary River system is the sooty grunter. Now, the sooty grunter is a native fish to Australia, but it's a North Queensland, Northern Territory and some parts of Western Australian species. It is not native to the Mary River. However, about 12 years ago, a large quantity of them escaped from a private dam on a property near the Mary River, apparently, and they've gotten into the river system and are well and truly well established and are by far the most common fish that you will see, catch and find in this system now. On to the star of the show. This is the Australian or Queensland lungfish. This is the main fish species we were trying to film during this documentary. And for part 1, we've got very limited footage of them. And unfortunately, most of the footage that you're seeing here, I actually filmed about 7 years ago, back when the river was in much better condition. And you'll notice this when we see some of the possible spawning behavior, but mainly because of all the beautiful aquatic vegetation. This shot here, with all that luscious vegetation on the bottom that this lungfish is prowling through, well, we actually went back to this exact spot and it's just barren mud now. None of that plant life is there anymore, and it's really sad to see. So the Australian lungfish is the oldest known living vertebrate species. And there's a long, heavily scaled body, a wide flat head, and lobed paddle-shaped fins. Kind of resembles a giant axolotl, just without the frilly bits on its gills. It's the most primitive member of the 6 lungfish species that survive today. Lungfish belong to an ancient lineage of air-breathing fish that first appeared on fossil records about 380 million years ago. And because these fish developed a lung to be able to breathe air, these beautiful fish are pretty much the evolution of everything that started to eventually migrate out of the oceans and rivers onto land. This is where the lineage of everything now that we know, mammals, everything, all originated back from these beautiful fish. And it's just hard to believe that these beautiful, big, peaceful fish were pretty much nearly on the brink of complete extinction. I mean, they're not even doing that well now. And sadly, a lot of their decline was due to agricultural usage of the land surrounding the river and urban development and just basically habitat destruction. And not to mention every time that we get a flood that comes through this system, the entire river environment completely changes. Everything that was previously there gets ripped out by the massive volumes of water and current and flow that come ripping through here, and it just destroys what they knew as their habitat. And then they have to eventually try and make their way back up the river systems and re-establish themselves again. One of the key components that lungfish need for reproduction is aquatic plants, and mainly Vallisneria. It forms a huge part of their diet, but also it's one of their main species of aquatic vegetation that they like to do their spawning and reproduction in. Their eggs are safe once they've laid them in these big thick val beds that you used to find in the river everywhere, but it's just not there anymore. It's just gone. It's all been choked out from sediment and silt and poor degradation of the water quality. It's really, really quite concerning how bad some parts of this river really are. And this is what I'm going to try and highlight to everyone over the next few episodes that I do on the mighty Mary River. We made it. We're out on the beautiful Mary River and we're pretty far downstream now. As you can see behind me how beautiful it is out here. It's spectacular. So we're diving in a nice big deep pool. We've already seen a platypus and we saw a big Mary River turtle up on the bank. Seen some other fish that we couldn't quite identify what they were. But we're going to jump in here now and we're going to go for a dive and see what else we can find out here. So stay tuned. This spectacular animal is the Mary River turtle. This distinctive species of freshwater turtle was only described by scientists in 1994 from the Mary River in the Gympie region. As a fully grown adult, they're probably our largest freshwater turtle species, and it's intriguing how they've escaped notice by herpetologists for so long. But a lot of our herpetological pioneers, like John Cairn and a few others, were able to find these beautiful animals and really bring them into the light to get them identified as their own species. Now, as an adult, the Mary River turtle has a low, streamlined shell, moderately short neck, but a larger neck than other short neck species, well-webbed fore and hind limbs, but the most distinctive feature is that the males have a ridiculously large tail. The tail length on males is just extraordinary. It is like a giant, thick, long appendage hanging out the back of the shell of this turtle. You'll get a glimpse of it just here. But it's just insane. No other species of Australian freshwater turtle has a tail of this length and thickness. It's only the males in the Mary River turtle that has this. These turtles are so unique, and unfortunately they are probably the most critically endangered species in this entire river system. Well, we're on day 2 of our filming mission, getting all the gear prepped, getting it all ready. Davo's down there setting up a bit of a camera. Say hi, Dave. So we're at Yabba Creek today. Canoe's down over here. We tried Kenilworth yesterday and we weren't really able to get as much footage as we were hoping. The water quality wasn't the best. So we've come to the beautiful Yabba Creek, which heads up towards Lake Barumba, but also joins onto the Mary River. It's another known hotspot for lungfish and other native fish and other turtle species that we're hoping to film today. So stay tuned and we'll see how we do today. Hopefully a bit better than yesterday. See ya! Alright, we're on day 3 of this Mary River filming mission that we're on. We haven't had the best of luck. Unfortunately, some of the water quality where we've been has been really, really bad. We did try a different tributary system off the Mary and it was completely polluted due to some construction that was going on. And unfortunately, we found a deceased lungfish in that spot. So where we are today, we're back in the OG spot where we did see him on the first day. And we're just going to have to work with what we got, unfortunately, but that's just the nature of what we're doing. The river's quite low at the moment. It's being school holidays too. There's been a lot of people swimming and playing in here, so it's stirred up a lot of sediment and silt, which makes filming even harder. But you've got to work with what you got. So stay tuned for today and we'll see how we do today. 3rd time lucky, eh? See ya! This is a white-throated snapping turtle. It is one of the largest short-necked freshwater turtles found here in the Mary River as well, second to the Mary River turtle, of course. These turtles are very unique as well. Female white-throated snapping turtles have a robust build and a very large head, and exhibit white cream markings on the side and the undersurface of their face, neck and head. Hence their name, their scientific name, albigula, stemming from the Latin alba, meaning white, and gula for throat. The head or neck of the males is typically grey to a blackish colour. What makes white-throated snapping turtles really interesting as well is the fact that they're referred to as a bum-breathing turtle, or scientifically known as aquatic respiration. Adult white-throated snapping turtles can obtain 40 to 60% of their oxygen intake required via their cloaca, enabling them to remain submerged for several days under optimal conditions if the river is healthy. It's a very beautiful turtle species, and these are critically endangered as well. However, the numbers of these guys far outnumber the Mary River turtle. These guys have managed to make a huge, significant bounce back, and a lot of that is thanks to places like the Mary River Catchment Committee and a few other land care places around that are also trying to help protect their nest sites on the riverbanks from destruction and degradation. But these guys have bounced back. We didn't find any hatchlings or juveniles on this specific trip, but we have found many hatchlings and many yearlings, so their numbers are bouncing back quite well. This beautiful fish here is the mighty Mary River Cod. It's an iconic species with a very restricted distribution. It's very highly sought after by recreational anglers as it puts up one hell of a fight. Cod are listed as critically endangered under the EPBC Act, largely due to habitat degradation and the absolute depletion of aquatic vegetation and the desnagging of waterways from huge flood events. But there's hope, because the Mary River Cod breeding program is well and truly in effect. This facilitates the restocking of genetically diverse fingerlings across their natural distribution in the Mary River catchment, and it also opens up an opportunity for fishermen to be able to catch them from stocked impoundments across southeast Queensland, and that'll help take the pressure off the natural occurring ones in the Mary River. We unfortunately had very limited footage to work with for the Mary River Cod for this episode. However, it's going to be one of the main feature points for part 2 of this series. Also, we're going to focus more on some other species that we do find in the river in the next episode as well. This little creature here is a beautiful saw-shelled turtle. It's common in the Mary River, but not one of the more common species. They're only found in isolated pockets up and down the whole river system. They're very few and far between in some spots, but then very common in others. This one was up enjoying the sun. Let me get pretty close. This is one of the best things about scuba diving or free diving in the river, is that you can get really close to a lot of animals that are above the waterline because they can't see you coming or hear you coming. And if you approach them very quietly and cautiously, you can get fairly close to these animals. Now, this was about the 5th one of these turtles that we'd seen to be able to get this footage, and it stayed there for a good few minutes to allow me to film it, but then when it had enough, it was, see ya, I'm out of here. But even then, it swam down to the bottom of the river system here. As you can see, I followed it. It comes under a piece of driftwood, and it attempts to do some camouflaging behaviour, which is another unique thing that Australian freshwater turtles do. They'll get under a piece of driftwood or an overhanging rock, and they'll actually flick the substrate, gravel, sand, over their shell to help camouflage themselves in an attempt to hide. This little dude did that for a little bit, And then he decided that, well, you can see me, I can see you, I'll swim up to the reeds. So he swam up to some reeds that were on the shallow section of the riverbank just here, and then he decided to swim up to the camera and say a quick hello, and then he went on his merry way. It was really good to see a healthy female sawshell turtle in this system, and I was really, really happy with the water quality here. This is probably the cleanest section of the entire river we could find. Now, this spot here where we're filming is at Kenilworth, so it's up in the higher reaches of the Mary River, and normally the water quality up there is a lot better than what it is in the lower reaches. Anyway, guys, I really, really hope that you've enjoyed part 1 of the Mighty Mary River documentary. I said we've got part 2 coming and then part 3. I'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe. Any type of support you can show me and the channel is greatly appreciated. I also want to say a huge shout out to everyone that does their bit when they're out fishing on the Mary River, cleaning up rubbish, picking up their fishing line, and just doing their bit to protect the environment. A huge shout out to the Mary River Catchment Committee for all the work that they do in helping to protect our native species of animal that live in this beautiful river system. All right, everyone, have a fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you all here again on the next episode.